Sorry, yeah. Wish to remind you all present that this meeting this evening will be live streamed to the public. A recording of the public part of the meeting will be available on the council's website within 24 hours of the meeting. Members and officers, please remember to switch their microphones on when speaking and off when they have finished speaking in the council's chamber, and ensure that the microphone is positioned near you and to speak directly into the microphone. Would attendees please switch off their mobile phones and put them on silent mode. If you need to take the call, please leave the room. Thank you. Apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair. Apologies from Councillor Ahmed and Councillor Masood. I've also begun with apologies from Councillor Alia Khan, who was meant to be substituting Councillor Ahmed.
Disclosure of interests. Sorry. Sorry, minutes of the 3rd of October.
Something on the minutes?
Assume that they've passed.
Well, actually, the same minute appears in the private bit as well as the public bit. I think it's the 3rd of October one. Page 5. It refers to the declaration of interest by a couple of Labour councillors who have, I think, private hire driver licences, and part of the report was on increases in charges for those licences. They quite correctly declared an interest, but this bit here does not reflect what I actually said. What I said was it's normal practice when a member has an interest in a small part of a much larger report that they declare the interest, stay in the meeting, are perfectly okay to take part in the bits of the report that they don't have an interest in, but would leave if the particular small part that they are interested in came up for actual discussion. And clearly, yes, they shouldn't vote. But this bit in the minute doesn't reflect that at all. But they did quite correctly declare the interest. No problem with that.
So, like previously, we'll amend it and bring it back to the committee.
What standard practices, Chair? You agree to the minutes from that meeting, subject to the amendment correction that Councillor Franks has made.
Right. Disclosure of interests. Do you have any?
None that have been made aware of, Chair.
Section 106.
Again, none, Chair.
Urgent business.
None, Chair.
References from other committees.
None, Chair.
Chair's announcements. None. Reports. Start with the finance update with Dev.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, councillors. So I will just give you a brief update on the Q2 report, i.e. for the period April to September. So we are finalizing. The report is due to come to executive on the 5th of December, but there's a meeting on FRG on the 24th of November. So we'll bring that report to the FRG. But some early indication is the overspend, which was reported in Q1, it's still there. It has increased slightly, but in the region of 11-12 million. And the main reason for those overspend is, as members are aware, that the employee pay award is in the region of 6%. So that's add 4 million on top of what was provided. There are inflation pressures in the region of 2.5 million. the impact of COVID is still being felt. So there are areas like parking or licensing or summons costs. So those are the income which still fall short of the pre-COVID level. That's in the region of 2 million. And one of the areas where we're experiencing more pressures is with the housing, so temporary accommodation. And that reflects the state of the economy as well. So those are the main areas. There are other movement within the budget, but that's for the sort of high-level figures, Chair. And as I said, we will be bringing a more detailed report to FRG on 3rd week of November, and it goes to executive. It's important that we get the Q2 as accurate as possible. It's not easy to focus in this current economic climate, but the Q2 report will be absolutely critical for us to work on and prepare the 23-24 budget. And as members are aware, there was more pressures in 23-24, more in terms of pay award, in terms of inflationary pressures, which have to factor into the 23-24 budget as well. So at this stage, I'm quite happy to take any questions, Chair, but as I said, the detailed full report Q2 will be coming to FRG 3rd week of November.
Thank you, Dave. Anybody got any questions? David?
Yeah, thanks. Not a lot, just 2 or 3 questions. Yeah, in the chart on paragraph 15, which is our page number 16. Apologies, Dev, if your page numbers are not the same. They very often aren't.
Yeah.
Just come in there. I think you've moved to item 8. 9, sorry.
Treasury management. We're on finance updates. Haven't moved on to treasury management.
Sorry. Yep. Apologies, Dev.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Chair.
Any questions? Yeah, we just agree with the report. Sorry.
Well, if we're on finance updates, yeah, the question is the council any nearer to getting its 2018-19 accounts signed off by the auditors, please?
Okay, so the 2018-19 accounts, as we've discussed, has been discussed in great length. The main issue was about the valuation of the airport, because as members are aware, the valuation increased from 1.5 billion to nearly 1.4 billion. So because the 18-19 accounts will be signed, so the auditors wanted the full valuation, very detailed valuation, and at the same time, because it's 18-19, we had to get the valuation 17-18 and 16-17. All those valuation has been done. We've already sent it to our auditors. A few things which they were about the pension, all things has been dealt with. So we've sent everything, and now we're waiting for Ernst & Young team to go through everything, plus the statement of accounts. So hopefully I will get an update from EY by mid of next week. So I'll be able to update. But as I said, last time when I met with myself and Robin, we met with the partners of Ernst & Young, Janet Dawson, and she said, yeah, she's much more comfortable as there's a lot of work has taken place to address those issues. But it was mainly to do with the group accounts. The council account, as I said, there's no concern in terms of the council accounts and the council figures. It's just a group consolidated figures. So I'm comfortable now. We've dealt with the 3 or 4 issues with they raised those, and they said, okay, we have to have a full risk valuation, which has been done. It has been sent by Deloitte. We just have to get the deferred taxation computation, because when there's a valuation, there's a revaluation, and PricewaterhouseCoopers are just working on the deferred tax. So with those things, I'm comfortable that the accounts will be signed, but I will get the date, an indicative date from Ernst & Young. Hopefully I will get that from next week, and then I'll be able to inform members.
Yeah, I thank you for that. If there is going to be an update from Ernst & Young next week, it would be helpful if Dev could update us by email.
Yes, I will do that.
Through you, Chair, there is also an item on the next meeting for the 21st and 24th of November work programme for the progress on the auditors' 18-19 accounts.
Yeah, but I mean, if there is an update before then, it would be good to have it, wouldn't it?
Any more questions? Thanks. We note the report and thank you very much. And right, item 9, Treasury Management Annual Report.
Thank you, Chair. I will present this one. John Chance speaking, Chief Accountant, Deputy 141 for Dev. Good evening, Chair. Good evening, members of the committee. Okay, so this report is the Treasury Management Annual Report for the financial year ended 31st of March 22. It was seen by Audit and Governance Committee on the 1st of September and Executive on the 10th of October, and essentially provides the main issues, summaries and reviews of the Council's Treasury Management activities for the financial year 21-22. And a couple of points to note. There's been an increase in the amount of external borrowing, 89 million during the year in respect of council approved projects, some other borrowing in respect of rescheduling current debt, and crucially and essentially note that the council did not breach any of its prudential limits for the year. So everything was done according to plan and within the strategy. Aside of that, we do have commentary in the report from our Treasury managers, Arlene Close, which talk about the economic outlook and various things of interest. Although, of course, this report is some months old now, but nonetheless, that's what we're reviewing here. So between Dev and I, would be happy to take any questions.
David.
Yeah, thanks very much. Not huge number, just two or three. On the grid, in paragraph 15 on our page 16, the actual total debt as at the 31st of March 2022 was £702 million. Does that include money that has been borrowed to be loaned on to the council's subsidiary companies, please?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. And can you give us, as best you can, how much has been borrowed for that purpose in the current financial year, which would obviously be in addition to this 702?
Okay, yes, looking at the indices, Councillor, we're expecting to borrow up to 93 million in 22-23. As far as what we've done to date, I haven't got that figure with me, but we could always look into that for you. But clearly there was some slippage from previous financial year where 58 million was lent to the airport, and we are expecting to lend considerably more in the current financial year, and we've had a cash flow forecast that substantiates that.
But that's included in your estimated 93 million?
The 93 million is for the last financial year. So yes, it was. Yeah, 58 million included that. Yes. Or the other way around, I should say.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Within it. Sorry, Councillor.
No problem. Thank you. That's very helpful. Paragraph 19 includes a phrase I've not come across before, so a bit of clarity, please. In the last line of paragraph 19, you talk about minimising counterparty risk. Could you just give us a bit more on that, please?
Minimising counterparty risk on placing investments also needed to be considered. So it really is about minimising the risk to the council by making prudent investments. I don't know if Dev, you've got anything you wanted to add besides that.
Yeah, normally you will see in our strategy, we've got the list of counterparties where we can lend. Normally, we don't have much cash flow, but during the year we have excess cash sometimes because of the cash flow, and then we put money in like money market funds which are triple rated, or we put money with bank, or we will lend money to other local authorities. So those are counterparty, but in our treasury strategy, we always put the criteria like whether it's AAA or AA. So we always lend to investment grade, and that's part of choosing who we lend money to, so that we minimize our risk, and that's what is counterparty risk. So we always have to look at the risk before we lend to other institutions.
Thank you. Can I just to make sure I understand that? Are you saying that at those times of the year when the council has a positive cash flow, then a judgment has to be made as to whether that should be used for internal borrowing or whether it should be invested elsewhere?
Yes, so there's two elements. So you will see the table you referred to, Councillor, table 15, there was under borrowing. So we use internal borrowing, absolutely. So if you got excess cash, we do sort of use it for our capital program. That will be our first goal. And then if there is a bit more excess cash, then we try to lend it with counterparties. So absolutely right. But we will lend only what we call investment grade. So AAA money market fund are AAA rated. So we lend them, and we don't lend long term because we don't have long term cash to lend. So we lend sort of a month or overnight, so we can have access to those cash as and when required. So we try to minimize the risk in terms of yeah. So that's you're right. The assertions you made.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Got a question. Oh, the question on the next paragraph, sorry, has already been answered in subsequent paragraphs, so don't need to trouble you there. Paragraph 25 talks about the Bank of England raising the bank rate in 25-point steps. The market seems to be expecting a 0.75% increase on Thursday. So does that lead to a need to rethink some of the calculations that you're making for the current year?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is a constant. This is a moving goalpost. We'll see 3-4 weeks ago, the gilt was very high, lending was high. Now it has stabilized, so the gilt has come down. So the point you're making absolutely right. We are constantly reviewing the rate because any increase in the interest rate, bank rate, or gilt will have an impact on our level of borrowing, and at the same time will have impact on our projects. So you're absolutely right. We're waiting for, you're quite right, there's an expectation of 0.75. At one point, there was an expectation of even 100 basis points, i.e. 1%. But right now, market has stabilized. There's probably the uncertainty is stable a little bit. But we will be constantly reviewing that, and as part of Q2, we'll be forecasting the rate which we are going to use for even 23-24 budget. So yeah, it's a risk. It's a risk we'll have to see how best we can manage. But you're right. We have to keep an eye. It's practically every day I look at the gilt rate to see what is happening. So yeah, we'll keep members informed as well if the rates start to climb too fast. So we'll have to make assessment of the risk to council projects.
Thank you, Chair. That's it from me.
Councillor Wynne.
Yes, can I just, I'm picking this up out of order, but I think it might relate to what we were just discussing then. Your paragraph 22 says the council has already locked most of the long-term borrowing requirement on fixed rate terms. How does that relate to what we've just been discussing about future rates?
Yeah, so if I can answer that, John, yeah, are you okay? Yeah, so yeah, the as council, we are not allowed to something called borrow in advance of need. So because borrowing in advance of need is made. So we do for some timing, like we've got an HRA loan coming for renewal in February. So the rate were looking good, so we've locked those rates. So then we will invest those. So the margin, which is called the cost of carry, it's worth doing that when we are going to have a 45 million loan will mature for HRA in February. So as and when we spend the money, we try to lock those. And the point in paragraph 21, we said, well, most of the loan for the airport one, the amount which they've spent and they've called on those debentures, those by and large is locked. So they've got fixed rate. But they spend for the airport or for our other subsidiary companies is there is further spending 22, 23 and 23, 24 as well. And we can't borrow in advance of need. So we can't borrow 6 or 12 months in advance because that will carry the cost of that interest. So as far as possible, all our loans so far which we have dispersed is already fixed. We used our internal borrowing to minimize the cost to the council. But any capital program for 22-23 or 23-24, those will be borrowed at the rate which will prevail at that time. And that's just picking up what I've mentioned to Councillor, that we've got to review. If the rate is going to go up significantly higher, then we'll have to review all our capital program. And that's what we're doing as part of the budget as well, to see whether certain capital program and certain business case, whether it's affordable, it's not affordable. So in terms of viability. So we will carry on doing that. But just to summarize the borrowing which we've lent LAL so far, we've already locked those rates. So those rates, if there's an increase in the interest rate by, I don't know, 100 basis points, technically speaking, it won't have impact on the money we've already lent to the airport because we've already locked those at fixed rate.
Thank you. Just one question, because I don't understand, I'm afraid. You have, going back earlier in the report on paragraph 7, you've said all of this expenditure has been reprofiled to 22-23. What do you mean by that, please?
This is when you look at some of the borrowing, some of the projects, if those were not spent in 21-22, these will be spent in 22-23. So there is a temporary accommodation purchase scheme. So we had around, I think, roughly 10 or 11 million to buy more residential properties. So those were not spent in 21-22, and we have reprofiled those in 22-23. But at the same time, we'll have to look at the housing market, because the housing market is right now, and if we listen to the prediction, there might be a correction in the housing market, but who can predict the housing market is very difficult. So we'll have to wait and see what the Bank of England and the budget, the finance budget, which will be sort of 17th of November, and see how the market looks like. And then if we have to utilize those 10 or 11 million to buy further properties, then we'll make those decisions.
Chair, if I may, can you explain, I see on a chart in number 13, the opening balance estimate and actual for 21-22 is absolutely identical right the way down to the last pound. Is that real?
Take the opening balance, that will be the same because that's opening balance of 641. That is coming from last year. So if you look at the 2021 actual, which is the closing balance 641,903, because the opening balance for 21-22. So the opening balance won't change. What will change is the capital expenditure. So you will see in 21-22 the capital expenditure budgeted was 106 million. Actually is 116 million. So the opening won't change. The opening is just the closing balance become the opening. So the 641, yeah, we don't expect those opening balances to change.
Any further questions? Comments?
The comments I'd like to make is in terms of the long-term forecast as far as the interest rates go, do you feel that we are in a sound position to be able to absorb the interest rates rises?
So yeah, so that's a very good question. I think the total loan to the airport, I think when we discussed last time, was reaching sort of give and take nearly $500 million, but most of these loans we've already dispersed. So the exposure to those loans which already dispersed, we've already locked the fixed rate. So if the rate goes up, we've already fixed it for long term. So I don't expect any increase in interest rate will have an impact on those loans which you've already locked. But there's still further loan to be advanced in 22-23, and there's capital program which we'll have. So those will have to look at it, but the airport, we lend the airport at 8%. So even the interest rate goes a bit higher, so at around, I don't know, maybe 4% or even 4 to 5%, we still recover our interest because we lend the airport at 8%. The only thing which will happen is that's why John and his team is working on, and to see how this increase in interest rate will reflect in our borrowing based on what we've put in our medium-term financial plan. So, and things like projects which are we started to spend on some of the project, for instance, like when you're talking about the stage project, those when last time we discussed at Airport, we were discussing about the project. So we'll keep under review as part of the preparation of the final business case, and we will factor any increase in the interest rate. Whether there will be further increase in interest rate, I think the market has already factored those already. So even if Bank of England will increase by 0.75, the market has already anticipated there is a 0.75. So that's why we increased the interest rate over the last 9 months has gone up. But a bit 2 or 3 weeks ago, the tendency was for those rates to stay high, but it has reduced slightly. But that level of interest, probably that's what Bank of England are saying and all economists is saying, is that level of 4% probably will be the norm for the foreseeable future. So the days of low interest rate of 2%, 2.5%, probably that's gone. So those sort of rate which will be more sustainable is around sort of in the region of 4%. Now the base rate might go up further, but the gilt rate probably has stabilized at 4%. But the base rate might go further. But we borrow based on more at our gilt. But this is a constant we have to assess, and as part of the budget, we'll have scenario what happens if we've got higher interest rates. So we do some sensitivity and try to assess what impact it will have on the budget. But just to come back to summarize that, the bulk of the loan for the airport we've locked those. So it's only the whatever is left now we can provide you the figures. Those are the ones which will have to make an assessment.
Any other comments? Sorry.
I propose something if it's helpful, and just that we note the report and thank Dev and John Chance for a very detailed and helpful report.
I think we'll all agree on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's always difficult at this time of the year, and even more difficult on this occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, member. Thanks for the kind words. Thank you very much.
Indeed.
So we now move to the work programme, and I think we want to make 1 or 2 minor changes. Over to Matt.
Thank you, Chair. If can I draw members' attention to the meeting for the 24th of November, there's quite a lot of pushback from this meeting to that meeting, and as you can see, it's quite a top-heavy meeting. I've been made aware of that Luton Rising business case in respect of Darton Corporation, Morton House, will be pushed back to a future meeting. At the moment, I can't give a definitive date on that. but my proposal is, through you, Chair, is if we may have an additional meeting either early December or mid-December, because there's a lot of stuff that needs to be dealt with before the January meeting. But as it stands, it's quite a top-heavy meeting. So if members are happy for me to look at an additional meeting, and if myself and the chair and Dev, if we could have a meeting to decide what goes where, and obviously we'll let members know if members are amenable to that.
Sorry, can you just tell me again when you thinking the extra meeting might be called?
Early sort of first to second week of December at the latest. But obviously I'll consult with members first. It's just that this meeting, the 24th, there's quite a few important and lengthy items on there.
Yeah, I mean, that does seem to make perfect sense to me. In a way, the Luton Rising business case item being moved elsewhere or to a later date is a significant help, because that's going to be quite a chunky item that I'm not even sure. Well, no, wait till I see it. Wait till I see it. But yes, it is going to be a chunky item. So yeah, it makes perfect sense to me.
I get approval from the committee to liaise with Dev and Matt to find an appropriate date and what can be moved to a meeting in the first or second week in December. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. We have to move into private now. So formally, everybody agree that's fine, move into private.